instant, which most Zen Buddhists would refer to as satori, there are lower level moments and levels of awakening in Zen. This awakening is referred to as samadhi, a word that has its contextual roots in the Chan school of Chinese Buddhism. Samadhi can be described as a unified state of mind in which there is no distinction between self and environment, no sense of time or place. Here again one sees a direct parallel with nous, in that the practitioner must see no division between himself and the outside world. This concept of connectedness is pervasive not only in Zen, but in all forms of Buddhism. It should be clarified that this way of thinking, both in Zen and nous, is not some sort of state where there is no thought or mind. In fact, there is a very high level of awareness, clarity, and experience going on. It is a state of one thought or one mind. In this state, achieved through Zen or nous, one begins to see where Aristotelian logic goes awry, as it suggests that if something is good, it must be all good. That which is not good must be bad, and that nothing can be good and bad at the same time. This is ridiculous, for in everyday life one will notice very little is exactly good, or exactly bad, or exactly this or exactly that. While Zen does not attempt to take on Aristotelian logic directly, as nous does, one can see how strongly Zen opposes Aristotelian logic when approaching it with nous in mind. Here, one can clearly see that the breaking down of dualisms is a very important concept in Zen, and is even closely related to samadhi. Through this, one also starts to become aware that breaking down dualisms is also very important to nous. This is a prime example of where a concept may not be clearly articulated in one philosophy, but becomes apparent as it is looked at in comparison to another. This idea of doing away with dualisms and realizing connectedness is also seen in direct student-teacher contact in Zen training. When a monk and his Roshi are alone discussing a koan, it is the goal of the Roshi to get the monk to see no division between himself and his master. In this one-on-one between a Zen student and his teacher, one sees a correlation between Zen and nous and their attempts to get the practitioner out of the verbal world. As a student fails again and again with a koan, he is forced into a corner and is made to look past common sense and the perceived world. Only once the Roshi can sense this has happened will he even consider if the student has realized the correct answer to the koan. While there is not quite an enforcement system like this in nous, the similarity is still apparent. There are even more direct connections that can be made between Zen and nous on the verbal level. There are several classic Zen formulations that are used to show Zen as the root of all Buddhism, but these formulations can also be looked at in order to draw comparisons to nous. One of these formulations is Jikishi Ninshin, which means directly pointing to the human mind. Just like Zen, nous acts as a language to get closer to the true mind and reality. An even more striking resemblance to nous comes in the Zen formulation of Fuyu Moiji, which translates as not relying on words or letters. Before closing a comparison between Zen and nous, one must also take note that the two philosophies do have discrepancies here and there. Most noteworthy of these discrepancies is ironically brought up by a sutra that is very commonly used in the Zen tradition, the Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra can be translated as saying, "Form is empty, emptiness is form." This statement can be interpreted many different ways, but no matter how one looks at it, there still seems to be a disagreement with the nous idea that reality has definite form and structure. Nous, however, does not say that one cannot begin to approach the truth of this form and structure verbally, and perhaps the Heart Sutra is simply going after the same idea that the commonly perceived reality is empty and has no form, since it is not anywhere near actual reality. So even in this discrepancy between Zen and nous, one is brought back to their similarity. It should now seem very clear how similar Zen and nous are. We've seen how the two philosophies relate on some very face value levels with direct verbal comparisons. But we've also seen how concepts in Zen koans and sutras overlap with the very planned out and structured philosophy that is nous. After looking at these two philosophies in light of each other, it is obvious that there is a higher understanding of both that has been arrived at. A student of Zen will have learned ways of better expressing the less approachable topics in their philosophy. A philosopher studied in Nous will have had doors opened as well, and see how seemingly spiritual Eastern philosophies and religions can actually have some important things to say about reality. Even persons approaching both of these philosophies from outside perspectives will have at least gained a greater understanding of both philosophies' inherent value in understanding how we perceive reality.